Hello and welcome. This is Rooflemonger, my friends. Hey, it's been a time for us Virtua Fighter fans. We had the big Virtua Fighter 6 announcement. We had the VF5 Revo beta just happened and it just concluded not too long ago. And I figure now is as good a time as any while VF hype is at its peak to kind of talk about the future of Virtua Fighter. Obviously, we have Virtua Fighter 6 coming up at some point. I'm assuming 2026. It could be 2025. I actually have no idea. 2025 sounds better to me than 2026 anyways. But I figure I want to post my hopes, my thoughts, my dreams for what Virtua Fighter 6 may be in this early stage. Because as it currently stands, we know basically next to nothing other than a small trailer put out. So before more info gets out there, I figure I might as well just post what I kind of hope for the future, and then this can kind of serve as a time capsule of if my thoughts were kind of on the ball or if I was way off base. And I guess the first thing to talk about that I hope for is just simply keep Virtua Fighter Virtua Fighter. Don't try to make the series something it's not, because I don't know if that would play well. You can do new things, and absolutely I want them to try new things, but just the core base gameplay, that should stay roughly the same. We don't need every mechanic, we don't need everything to stay exactly the same, but when I talk about the basics being the same, stuff like game speed. The game should remain fast and frenetic and kinetic, right? There's a reason why rounds in Virtua Fighter 5 start at 45 seconds, because the games go by quick. And that is very much the flavor of VF, right? There's nothing wrong against a slow fighter. I love a lot of slow fighters, you know? I'm a big Sam Show fan, for example, and that game plays out glacially. But that's not VF specifically. A lot of the people who I've been talking to who tried VF for the first time over this weekend with the beta that happened for VF5 Revo, they were shocked at just the general pace of the game, and they found it really fun. Because you just go, and you make decisions. Like, I've talked about this before multiple times, but like the amount of decisions per minute in Virtua Fighter is higher than any other fighting game, period. It's not just that there's a lot of decisions to make at any point. There's a lot of decisions to make every split second. Okay, block this. Do I attack? Do I sidestep? Do I go for Abare? Do I attack while they're attacking? Like all that kind of stuff. And you have to make a new decision every split second. And that's kind of part of the fun, because that's a lot of where the instinct lies, right? That you just have to be good at unconscious decision making. Because you really don't have time to just sit there and think about it. And just that relative speed is a lot of what makes VF very fun. So I very much believe that should remain the same. Also, what should remain the same is the general, what we call attack triangle of Virtua Fighter. So obviously, you know, attacks are punch and kick and all that kind of stuff. But when I say attack triangle, I mean specifically we have attacks, we have blocking, and we have throws. And how it generally is, if you block, well, you beat an attack, right? But if someone's blocking, a throw will beat a block. And while you're throwing, an attack will beat a throw. There's obviously exceptions to everything, because that's how fighting games work, but that's the general triangle. Guard beats attack, attack beats throw, throw beats guard, and then we kind of just do everything from there. So once again, I very much believe that the core DNA of the game should be the same. That shouldn't change at all, because you want VF to remain VF, otherwise what's the point of everything, right? But that doesn't mean necessarily everything should change. I think some specific mechanics maybe should change up a little bit. Some things I think should be engraved in stone. Like how evades work traditionally, you know, like most Virtua Fighter games, you tap up or down, and then you just evade. Done. There's no character specificity. There's no, well, this one's sidewalk left, this one's sidewalk right, this one only works if you're Lily, if you're Kazuya, this won't work. No, just up or down always works. You just general evasion should be universal across the cast, and that needs to stay the way it is. Things like throw techs. I think throw techs should stay the way they are in Virtua Fighter 5, specifically the Final Showdown version, right? In that every throw is either a forward, neutral, or back throw, right? And if I hold a direction or hold no direction and hold guard and punch at the same time, if I know which throw is coming, then I'll be rewarded, right? Because a lot of throws, you can know which one are coming. Like if I am specifically against the water. So if I'm up against like a potential ring out situation, I'm up against Wolf specifically. Wolf has the move he wants to go for. He wants to go for giant swing because he'll just instantly win the match. Sure, that's a forward throw. So therefore, if it's a forward throw, and I know it's a forward throw, since I know it's a forward throw, it probably behooves me to do a forward tech, right? Because if I forward tech, then I won't instantly die. And those are the kind of things, right? Generally, forward throws will move you forward. Back throws will move you back. So if like their back's against the wall, they'll probably back throw you into the wall. And it just creates a good situation where it doesn't need to be a reaction check. I know what you're going to do. And therefore, by teching the throw whichever way, I'm already beating you before you even attempt it. I find that a very elegant system. A lot better than just a pure reaction check, which you can still do in the game if you know which throw is coming. Like, the option's still there, right? But I've always liked the way that's done. So, like, evasion, that should remain the same. But things should change. Now, not to beat a dead horse on the first thing that needs to go, but we've talked about this many times and over the years, but the weight system has to go or be drastically reduced. And you know what? They agree with me. Because one of the maybe the biggest change overall of Revo was the fact that they are condensing the weight systems. So the heavier characters don't weigh as much, and the lighter characters weigh more. This is a thing that's a relic of the past as far as I'm concerned. Very few games contain this like mechanic anymore, and the ones that did, like say Guilty Gear Strive, they had it, and then later in the game's life, they just patched the whole system out of the game entirely, because it's just busy work. It's technically depth, but it's not real depth as far as I'm concerned. It just wastes your time making you have to learn more combos. Let me give you a great example now, post-patch of something. I'm going to show you a combo here on Akira that didn't work before. All right, so this combo here, all natural combo, right? Did not work on Akira before. He was always able to tech out if he could tech out in time, right? That's on the player, but still, he had the option. Didn't work on him before, now it does. Cool, great, because he's weighing less. Sure. So now, same combo on Sarah, and this always worked on Sarah. The reason I'm showing you this is because now we're going to switch to a character that's lighter than Akira, but heavier than Sarah. So this combo still does not work on Leon. It just doesn't work on him, right? Due to whatever weight stuff, it just doesn't work on him. Even though he's heavier than Sarah and he's lighter than Akira, and it works on Akira now, his hoodie of invulnerability means that he can't get hit by that last punch for whatever reason. I understand this is partially hitbox, hurtbox issues as well, but like the system is so weird like this, right? If a combo should work on a heavy character, it should theoretically work on all the characters lighter than him, right? And the idea is you optimize more for the lighter the combo, or rather lighter the character is, but there's just still so many situations even after the patch like this, where you just got to learn so many different combos for so many different characters, and it's frustrating. Like, it's enough for many people just to learn one set of combos. For most players in fighting games, that can be hard enough as it is, right? So I do like that they're making the weight system more universal now in Virtua Fighter 5. I think that's one of the most things to be heavily applauded about the game. And I hope come Virtua Fighter 6, either they just do that even more. Like, there's strict light, medium, heavy, and Taka, I guess, the sumo weight, right? Like, there's strict defined weights. There's not just micro weights inside each weight division, or they just get rid of it entirely, which honestly, this is what I prefer. But either way, they have begun to simplify and lessen the effective weight in Revo, and I hope they keep doing that going forward in Virtua Fighter 6. Another thing that should go, which was heavily highlighted by the end of the beta due to changes to certain moves, is the stagger system. So when you see stagger there, that little arcade stick moving back and forth, the idea is you have to shake your controller to get out of the stagger, right? And while it's green, you can't shake out yet. It's letting you like get ready to shake out. And while it's red, you technically can shake out. So Eileen specifically, her down back punch plus kick punch, which is 2 EX lows. So it involves stagger, right? Here's the thing. If you can't stagger out fast enough, this is an actual honest to God infinite. And so this is one of the buffs she got in Revo, right? And I kind of hope that patch isn't final and they're willing to make some other changes. Because here's the thing. You can know this is coming all you want. You actually still might be fast enough to stop this. It doesn't matter that it's a thing, right? It's actually difficult to stop. So here it is, right? If you get hit by the first hit, you're in a stagger. And the idea is, like, I actually can't get out. I actually cannot get out fast enough. Hoping that you can hear me jam on the controller here. I'm holding block. I literally cannot get out fast enough. I literally can't get out fast enough. And that's messed up. Here, I'm going to try one more time. I'm sliding. Oh, I actually can't do it. I actually can't do it. Oh my God. So yeah, that's messed up. And obviously this is an edge case scenario. This is not quote unquote normal, right? But the stagger mechanic basically was first invented to basically force arcade owners to buy replacement parts for broken arcade sticks, because people would jam on the stick so hard it would break, and then the arcade owner has to buy more parts from Sega, right? So like that is very much a mechanic that's a legacy of the past. It doesn't need to return. If you saw the recent leak, there's a one Virtua Fighter screenshot out there. I don't want to post it just in case Sega cops come at me, right? But there's a little bar underneath the health bar. People are wondering what this meter could be. Maybe it's a stun bar. I don't know. There should be some factor of stun. That's fine. That's part of VF. That's not too crazy. But that just smashing, like, you know, if people have a handicap, a physical handicap, right? Fighting games are already hard enough. Being able to physically go as fast as you possibly can from back to forward while trying to get out, like, that's a big ask. Some people just physically cannot do that. And that's why I think stagger as a mechanic needs to go. Like, there can be other things of stun or whatever, other ways you can emulate the mechanic, but that specific mechanic of just mashing back and forth, holding guard, and praying to God you're fast enough to get out of the stun, that, it's a relic of the past. It should stay in the past. A lot of VF is great. No one will tell you stagger is a reason why they like Virtua Fighter. Let's put it that way. So that needs to go. Now, other things to talk about come the roster. Will there be new characters? Like, of course there'll be new characters. How could there not be new characters? So we can expect that. And who knows what exact form they'll take. There's still a few martial arts that, you know, are not represented at all in Virtua Fighter. Like, Virtua Fighter doesn't have a boxer. Like, at all. Like, VF is the game, like, the halcyon hallmark of, like, the quote-unquote real martial arts fighter, whatever, right? It's still not that realistic, really. But, you know, we don't even have a boxer. We have a kickboxer, but that's not quite the same thing. So, when it comes to new characters, what martial arts they'll use, what they'll look like, who knows for sure. But when it comes to the base roster, the characters that already exist, I feel like there'll be some changes. Like, we do know that there's going to be some level of redesigns for the characters, like Akira. We saw Akira has an all-new look. Akira was only ever angry guy in karate suit, and now he's actually got a pretty stylish vibe going on. Now, we already know from the little behind-the-scenes snippet we saw from the VF Direct that Akira will very much have his classic attire. So if you're a fan of that, don't worry, it's not going anywhere. But one of the complaints, as someone who deals with like a lot of new players in the FGC, I always hear about Virtua Fighter is the characters look old-fashioned. And you know what? I guess to a degree, fair enough. Akira is Karate Man. Pai is just Kung Fu Girl. Lao is Kung Fu Man. Wolf is just a big dude in some wrestling tights. Like, these are not the most innovative character designs. Like, I love them because I grew up with them, sure. But if you're younger, like, what attachment could you have to these guys? Because unless you actually start playing and get to know the character's personality through the games themselves, visually, none of these guys scream out at you. Like even Taka here, he's just sumo guy, right? Even Honda has like face paint on, and he usually has a kooky smile. Like, most of these guys, like, other than like Brad and Go, specifically VF4 Evolution, they're very much in like the edgelord phase, trying to catch a new audience, and it worked. Go is, to people who are not very familiar with franchise, one of the most immediate characters people lean into, just because Go doesn't look like everybody else. He actually doesn't just look like, I'm a martial arts guy from the early 90s or the 80s, right? Like a lot of the rest of the cast does. So if you can just give a lot of the returning cast a new, fresh look while keeping the old costume, you know, costume 1 is new, fresh look, costume 2 is the classic, I think that would do wonders for a lot of the cast that you want to keep. And then there's that phrase right there, the cast you want to keep. So Virtua Fighter, every character that's ever been in a game has been in every other game. Except for Taka, who was not in Virtua Fighter 4, and the stated reason was he wasn't in VF4 due to technical reasons. Because Taka has his own rule set, And I gotta imagine it just literally takes more time to make Taka than the other characters due to that exact fact. But other than Taka, no one's missed a game since they made their debut. But here's the thing, by the time VF6 comes out, it'll be longer from VF5 to VF6 than it was from VF1 to VF5. That's an incredible gulf of time to think about, really. And you gotta realize, like, to be fully realistic, you know, not every character is as popular as the other characters. Like, Akira, Pai, Lao, Wolf, they'll be in for sure. Those are like basically like the 4 most important characters of the franchise, and I guess Sarah and Jackie as well. Actually, you know, just basically everyone in the Virtua Fighter 1 crew. Like, those are basically locks. And a lot of the later era characters, they can stay too, because they're popular enough. They'll draw people into the game, like Vanessa. A lot of people who've never played VF ever, they're a Vanessa main for a couple of reasons. But then you got someone like Brad. And Brad fans, please don't come at me, but we're just talking real here, okay? Brad doesn't command a premium. Brad doesn't bring in the audience. He doesn't bring in the sales. Versus his compatriot Go does. So maybe time and development resources on a Brad would be better spent on an all-new character. Now, I'm not even saying I want people to go, because I don't. If they could have every character return, I would actually think that's ideal. But given that it's almost 20 years right now, and it probably will be 20 years by the time the game comes out, I just don't know if that's fully realistic. Like, other fighting games, characters just miss games. Either because they're not popular, or maybe they try a redesign. Like, we already have one potential redesign. This isn't Sarah, this is Stella. It looks like Sarah, it fights like Sarah, but it isn't actually Sarah, apparently. Maybe it's brainwashed Sarah, maybe it's a clone of Sarah, maybe it's Sarah's daughter and there's a time skip, maybe it's Daral, who knows? But it just isn't actually Sarah, so it is a redesign on some level. So I just think it's very realistic, even if it could be unfortunate, to expect some of your favorites maybe to not appear in the game. You know, like Scorpion wasn't in Mortal Kombat 3. He was in Ultimate, but that was later, right? Chun-Li was not in Street Fighter 3 New Generation. Kazuya was not in Tekken 3. It took years to get Slayer and Johnny into Guilty Gear Strive. Hakan is not in Street Fighter 6. Can you believe that bullshit? So now, to set expectations, I just don't actually expect every single character to return. I expect the majority of the cast to return, but not everybody. Some people will either have redesigns and are new characters, like they'll be the same character but with a different name effectively. And of course, we'll have all new designs for all new characters with all new martial arts as well, and that just remains to be seen. Now, the other part of roster talk, let's talk the inevitable, and that is guest characters. And there's one franchise in particular that's blindingly obvious, and that is Yakuza. Yakuza and Virtua Fighter are inexorably linked. Most people that are younger only know of Virtua Fighter as the mini game in the Yakuza games. So many people for so many years said, oh, Kiryu has to be a guest character in Tekken. We need Kiryu in Tekken, blah, blah, blah. And for so many years I fought back saying, no. There will one day be a Virtua Fighter 6, and when that day comes, and it finally has, that's why we're talking, one day when that comes, Kiryu and the rest of the Yakuza characters are going to go there, because not only are they natural fits, it's a Sega-owned property, and it just makes all the sense in the world. And I already know the comments, But rooflemonger, Kiryu can't hit a girl. Oh, I'm sorry, can you speak up? I didn't hear you that time. Well, technically that one girl he fought was actually a transgender woman. Kiryu doesn't care. He'd be the first guy, if you've ever actually played the games, to tell you that trans women are women, and he's so equal rights, he's willing to just shoot them in the face with a pistol. Other multimedia appearances like Project X Zone, Kiryu's fists are very much rated E for everybody. It's always bandied around, oh, Kiryu can't hit women. The guy who said that left the company a million years ago. He's got nothing to do with the franchise anymore. Get it out of your minds. Like, he's old-fashioned, absolutely. But it doesn't mean that he can't be a guest in the game. Kiryu is canonically a Virtua Fighter player. If that doesn't say it all, I don't know what does. He's tailor-made to be a guest. He'll sell a lot more copies. That's the point of guests in the end, really. And to be all the way frank, Virtua Fighter needs a boost like that. Like, you got people like me that'll shill VF till the sun explodes, sure. But the audience at large, especially younger people, they have no attachment to the franchise. It would take the star power like a guest to help bring this to a new audience. And that's what you want. We want VF to go worldwide again, right? And guest star power always helps sell copies of games. It puts a lot of games on the map. I know people personally in the small little town I live, they bought fighting games because of XYZ guest or another over the years. And just to have someone who actually makes sense for the franchise, it's just the easiest layup in the world. And of course, Yakuza being Yakuza, it's not the only character you can do. We also have Majima, we have Ichiban. You can do a lot of characters and it would all work. And of course, it's not even the only thing. Like, I think that's the easiest thing. That should be step one. That's the first place we go to is Yakuza, just because it works out so well. But you don't necessarily got to stop there. There's people that could fit. Tifa just recently thumbed up her nose at a Tekken 8, right? So I'm just saying, you got a home waiting for you in VF6, Tifa. Now, I'm not saying necessarily go crazy with the guests, but absolutely you should include them. Once again, guests bring attention. They bring eyeballs that a franchise would not normally ever get. And right now, for a new Virtua Fighter, what we need more than ever is new eyeballs. If you're going out of the way to make a new game, you obviously want to sell the game. And one of the best ways to do that is to get some high-profile guests into that game. I just bring all this up because I know there'll be some people like, oh, VF's too pure, you can't have... No, VF is not a pure game. I have no idea where people get that idea. You see Leon dancing around dressed like a praying mantis? Is this your pure game that you can't have any silliness or guests in? El Blaze dancing around with the maracas, and then all of a sudden the Sega Samba del Amigo monkeys come out of the maracas? Is this the deadly serious game that can't have guest characters that you're talking about? So yeah, you have the core roster, sure, but you have a few guests in to spice things up and get more sales. It's the really only smart way to go as far as I'm concerned. And going on from that previous note, actually, I hope that they really double and triple down on cosmetics and customizing your characters. Now, if you only ever played Ultimate Showdown, unfortunately, like the overwhelming majority of items never made it into Ultimate Showdown because they were recreating a lot of the assets and they only just focused on just a couple of the costumes. They didn't really go whole hog on it. But VF has always been, ever since VF4, has been a hallmark of customization, and I hope they really just go crazy on it. Tekken 8 has done very well, and Tekken 7 as well, has done very well on the customization front. And VF needs to be the king of customization again. And when I talk customization, I mean, go nuts with a lot of your items. Bring in a lot of just like good customization stuff, but also go heavy on like, say, Sega references. Like we showed the little clip there of El Blaze and the Samba de Amigo monkeys. Like have Sonic the Hedgehog hats, have like any property you can figure out. Like I want a death battle with someone in a Sonic hat versus someone in a Shadow the Hedgehog hat, Like, customization is fun. Everyone likes customization. Everyone likes making characters, like, theirs specifically. Like, this version of Taka, I think, looks extra grotesque, and I love it. That's my Taka, right? Like, so I think that's just a way to go. Like, I think that's an auto-include. If they don't go whole hog on customization, I think that is a massive miss. They've done it very, very well in the past, and they need to continue going for that in VF6. We have the new graphics, we have all that kind of stuff. It's an easy win. Everyone loves that stuff. Plus, you can sell more cosmetics as DLC. Like, let's get real, monetization. That's part of it. That's part of it. And people would rather buy monetization of the characters they play than, say, avatars. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. So give people what they want. Give people tons of customization. Now, delving back into gameplay, one of the things I really hope is the stages. They just go crazy with it. Once again, I want the core VF experience to be what it is, but I also want them not to be afraid to take risks and not be afraid to take changes. And stages, I think, is a great way to do it because of the stage we see here in the one little gameplay snippet that we have. This is nothing, absolutely nothing like a traditional Virtua Fighter stage. Virtua Fighter stages are squares or rectangles, and there's ring outs and walls. That's it, that's all. There certainly isn't like this open variety of stuff and nooks and crannies like you're seeing in this shot. Now, I said it before in the initial VF6 trailer talking video, right? But that looks more like a Dead or Alive style stage to me. And DOA stages can have things like weird little nooks and crannies that you can get into, right? Like that aren't just, perfectly square or octagonal or whatever, not just like a nice geometric shape. They can look weird. And DOA stages can do things like have fun stage interactions. Like you hit something, something blows up, or like there's neat little wall combos, or things can explode. Like here, there's a bunch of like firecrackers and explosives on the ground. And if you land in them, then you explode, you bounce up, right? That can be in Virtua Fighter and it not be against the core of what VF is. I think if they want to go for that greater martial arts presentation, which is what they seemingly are, a stage is a gigantic, like, think of any martial arts movie you love, like a Jackie Chan movie or like whatever. Jackie Chan interacting with the environment is a massive part of what those movies are. Like, maybe it doesn't have to be as drastic as like I hit you in a car and the car explodes or something like that, right? But just cool, interactive, dynamic stuff in the background, that very much is part of what makes a martial art movie. Like someone going through a wall or falling down. And I think that can absolutely work in the context of Virtua Fighter. And always, one of the things that was weaker about Virtua Fighter compared to, say, a Tekken, or a Dead or Alive, I guess, was the presentation. And all of a sudden, if you can incorporate that kind of stuff into the game, not only does that make for new, fun gameplay that wasn't in the game already, and once again, we don't know, I'm just speculating and hoping, but I think that is a giant value add that can add a lot to Virtua Fighter as a franchise. Now, like, don't get me wrong, I still want the plain stage where there's just nothing going on and there's water on all sides and then you both fall into the water. Everyone loves that about VF. Okay, I still want that experience, but you can absolutely just get crazier than a lot of the nominally just geometric shape, maybe wall, maybe ring out stage that Virtua Fighter normally does. That is absolutely a valid path for the series to evolve while still being VF, and I think that can be really, really fun. Now, this next one I think is one of the, maybe not the most important one to talk about for the future of VF, is you got to go hard and real on that single player content. If you are only trying to make a game to sell to all the 40-year-olds that love VF like myself, you have already failed. That game will not sell to a mass market. You need to hit things the casual audience would like and then turn the casual audience into the hardcore audience. And as we talked about earlier, roster, guest characters, that stuff matters. But people who are more casual inclined love single player content. I'll tell you right now, for a lot of the old heads, why did they get into Virtua Fighter big time? Because of Virtua Fighter 4 and VF4 Evo, because of the quest system. Quest mode is what made a lot of these lifelong Virtua Fighter fans. Why? Because it was quality and expansive single player content. Like, if you break it down to brass tacks, it's a lot like do this combo or whatever, but there was a lot of it. And the fun part was, like, this is something we're getting more now in modern day, but a lot of the people you fought were like specific characters. Like this, you can see here, this wasn't just a Sarah, this was Smiley. And you would go to various arcades in Japan and fight different people with different names, and every single character had their own unique AI. It wasn't just you fight Sarah AI, everyone had their own unique AI. Everyone fought a very specific way in their own style. And it was awesome and memorable. Now, just to keep it real, the leaks say quest mode is coming back, and the leaks have been 100% correct so far. We've been covering the leaks for like the better part of a year now on the channel, and so far they haven't let us down. They led us to VF6. So take it with a grain of salt, I guess, but they say quest mode is coming back. And yes, have quest mode return. It's awesome, but don't stop there. This is RGG Studio we're talking about, okay? These are people that know how to make some quality single player games. And to that, I say lean into that expertise. Like, I've seen some people talk about this little and only gameplay snippet we have, that this could potentially be part of a single player campaign, what we're seeing here, right? And maybe so, I don't know. But I do know that RGG, if we're building an expansive world here, like maybe you could walk around, maybe you could get into fights, almost like, say, Street Fighter 6 World Tour. Maybe that's a way you just make that quest mode. As you walk around the various aspects of the game world, you meet your various characters And, you know, there could be 20 different versions of Wolf or Akira. They all have different names because they're different AIs, and you battle through it that way. And of course, bring back the actual plot. Virtua Fighter barely has a plot. If you don't know, here's the actual plot. There's an organization called Judgment 6. They're effectively the Illuminati. They run a fighting tournament to get data for Dural, their evil combat robot. That's it. Also, Jeffrey likes to fight a shark called the Satan Shark. The plot is barely there, effectively. So now, on top of giving proper single-player content, if you want to make the story yours, go nuts. You effectively might as well just reinvent the story from scratch and go crazy. You could even integrate the story into the greater Yakuza universe. Why not? Like even Dural, you know, combat robot, who was actually technically Kage's mother, but whatever, we're not going into it. That's hardly the weirdest thing that's ever happened in Yakuza. You could easily link the two universes and there would be like zero actual problem. Not saying that's what they're going to go for, but it's just an option on the table. But yeah, regardless, single player content not only should be a focus, I believe has to be a focus. Once again, we need to sell copies. We're not just going to sell to the same old heads, because otherwise the franchise dies before it even gets off the ground again. And quality single player content is absolutely maybe the best way to go on top of good online. But you know, Revo, we have rollback, all that. So I'm not too worried about the online. I'm sure they'll have it figured out, right? Because it's already been proven. The reason why so many current lifelong VF fans are fans to begin with is because the quality single player content of Virtua Fighter 4 is what got them in the door and made them stay. I very much believe they are smart enough to recognize it for what it is. Once again, RGG Studio, that is basically the best people in Sega you could give this franchise to make sure that the game is going to be good just outside of the core versus battle, which I'm sure will be very fine. But we need stuff like single player to get people staying once they play, or even just to get interested to play to begin with. I think RGG will do it right. I hope they will. And I'm very interested to see what their take on the various aspects of single player can and will be. And now finally, just to kind of go into the minutia, the little things, right? So little things, one, I hope the ranking system is more like, say, Street Fighter 6. I think Street Fighter 6 has the best ranking system of any modern fighting game. Because as it currently stands, you get to like the various ranks, you know, 1st Dan, 10th Dan, you know, all that kind of stuff, right? And it's like Tekken. Once you get a certain rank, all your characters, then you have to play at that rank going onwards, right? I think they should just have every character has their own unique rank starting at 0, and you go there because it's the best way to encourage people to just try new characters. Like say you progress far enough with one character and now your minimum rank is 10th Dan, and then you're fighting some, you know, decent people at that point. So that might discourage you from trying a new character because like, well, I don't know this character that well. And like, I don't want to fight people that are really good because they'll just blow me up. I just want to actually try to learn with people at my relative skill level with an all new character. I think once again, Street Fighter 6 just did it perfectly. Every character is their own rank. I think that should be the way for every fighting game going forward. City of the Wolves, I'm looking at you. You should absolutely steal that from Street Fighter 6 because it's just simple and elegant. You're the rank you should be with whatever character. And when you start someone brand new, you just start at the start. You go from there. Another little thing, this is an aesthetic thing, but let the ladies be fit again. Like Sarah and Vanessa in VF4, they were friggin' jacked. And then VF5, they turned everybody into skinny twigs again. Now, we have that one shot here of Stella, and Stella isn't Sarah, apparently, right? And they seem to be going in the right direction. Like, there is some muscle definition, right? She's not a twig like Virtua Fighter 5 Sarah. I don't know, it's just part of the always ongoing fight of fighting games of men can be any shape and size. Look at Taka versus Go, right? But women, not as much. Not everybody's got to be a skinny supermodel is all I'm saying. More variety, more better. And I guess last little thing to mention, and this is absolutely a quibble, I'll be the first to admit it, because VF5 is an almost 20-year-old game, but with Revo, trying that with the beta, it's the first time I've actually tried to play it with leverless, and I did notice that the input system doesn't like leverless as much, considering there's so many half-circle motions in the game, and if you try to do a half-circle on leverless very fast, there's a very real chance you'll either like miss a cardinal direction, like you'll go down, forward, then down back, but miss actual down, or like something will happen, right? And then the game will say, no, I don't accept that as an input. Obviously, it's a sign of the times, but then you look at Street Fighter 6, you'd be shocked the slop Street Fighter 6 accepts as inputs. And that's very much because they made the game with leverless controls in mind, and the input buffer and leverless control in mind, because lots of classic games do not play well with leverless. Like when that Capcom vs. SNK 2 collection comes out, guys, you guys who play on leverless, you guys are in for a rough surprise. For any characters with half circles, you will have a rough time on leverless. And you know what? I don't even think it'll be an actual issue, because once again, this is just an ancient game with an ancient input buffer and how it reads inputs. But I just figured I would bring it up. As it stands, when you do half circles, you have to just be sure that you're slow. You got to slow it down just to make sure the game reads all the inputs as proper. And that's about it. I am very much looking forward to Virtua Fighter 6. I can only hope for the best. It's been a long time. I have to assume they know a lot of the things will just go without saying that need to be done. And they will make it the game that everyone hopes it can be. There's a lot riding on this. I know we're kind of in the era of like ancient franchises returning, because we also have City of the Wolves coming back, and it's been even longer for Fatal Fury to make a return, right? So we're in the era where the classics are making the big comeback, and City of the Wolves, as far as I can tell, like, you know, I've had hands on the game, they're doing everything right. So I can only really hope and dream that VF6 will also do everything right and hit all the marks it has to hit. Like, I can't imagine a worst case scenario for me than I waited like 2 decades for this friggin' game, and then all of a sudden it sucked. Like, that'd be awful. But that's some of my thoughts, some of my hopes, some of my dreams on Virtua Fighter 6, and I would love to hear yours, because I know I'm not the only one in the boat that's been waiting a long time, and for a lot of y'all that are newer to the franchise, right? Like, maybe Revo is the first time you've ever really looked at VF, right? 1, it's a good place to start, so get starting. 2, like, what are your expectations? You know, you didn't necessarily grow up with this franchise. Maybe it doesn't mean as much to you. What are you hoping for a Virtua Fighter 6 to be? I would actually love to hear the younger person's perspective on that. That's not just always known the franchise since day one. That all said though, my friends, that is the video. So thank you very much for watching. Hope this video has found you well, and go out, and when the time comes, play some Virtua Fighter.